Hello, everyone. It's Blaze, and welcome back to another Can Yugi Muto beat Total Drama? I really like the first part, and this is all pre-merge, so I'm not going to take up too much of your time. So I guess without delay, let's start this thing.
It's time to see how Yugi does in Total Drama Action. This is a continuation of the two Total Drama Island videos I made, so if you haven't seen those, you should check them out first. With
Already
that being
reacted.
said, let's get into the season. Episode 1 immediately establishes a difference between canon, with Kaiba having bought out the show before it even started, having been entertained by Yugi's antics.
Oh yeah, that's right. There was an April Fool's video that he did. Basically, Kaiba apparently bought it, so not sure how I exactly feel about that being canon. It was literally just one episode long. I'm not sure how I feel that April Fool's video is literally canon.
He decided to let him have his show, but it'll have a much bigger budget this time, and Kaiba will also get to monitor Yugi to see any changes he makes to his deck. The second major change is that there's 16 contestants instead of the canonical 14, with the first interaction being between Cody and Yugi, with Cody congratulating Yugi on his win at Battle City. Yugi would be a bit flustered by the compliment and say he wasn't the only impressive one. Harold also got far. Gwen would reject this, saying that there's
Okay, so I never watched season 0, but from what I've seen, season 0 was fine to implement. But the fact that he's doing this, like, I don't know. I feel like that should be kind of where the line is drawn. Like, not bring like actual things into it. Like, I wouldn't think Battle City would be a part of this damn franchise or part of the Total Drama franchise. Like, what? That honestly is confusing.
no way he was there, but Yugi is adamant at his appearance. Trent asks if anyone else was there, and Yugi says that Eva went, but Eva says it's okay. She lost every match she was in. Trent says, ouch. That's tough, but at least you got in. Gwen tried but didn't make it. Gwen would tell him that he didn't need to tell everyone that. Justin would say that there's no shame in it. He also didn't make it. Tyler interrupts and asks if he was the only one who hasn't played it yet, and Lashana would say no, she hasn't gotten into it. She tried, but who can be bothered to memorize so many cards? Heather
Fair.
says she's glad they agree on that, and Lashana asks if she's the girl who got cursed last season, and Heather says yes, not being able to lie. Beth would be freaked out and ask Courtney if she wants an alliance again, and Courtney blatantly refuses, turning to Duncan, who she's still reprimanding after he voted her off last season. Duncan in confessional would say that he thought that being a finalist last season would have made Courtney less pissed, but he should have known better. She's extra pissed now. She created an entire book of things he needs to fix. Lindsay asks DJ what they're talking about, and DJ tells her not to ask him about that stuff. Mama says it's devil worshipping stuff. Sadie tells her she'll teach Lindsay later. Her and Katie made a deck together, and Katie is evidently not here. Courtney asks why she isn't crying from being separated from her then, and Sadie says she went weeks without Katie last season. She's kinda used to it now, and honestly it's a nice break. When they arrive to the film lot, Chris would announce the first challenge being to search through the film lot to find their trailers while avoiding a giant monster. The cast start to run away, with Tyler falling first and telling Lindsay to leave without him, but she refuses. Beth trying to get her to leave at first, but ultimately letting her get caught as she saves herself. Sadie asks how she could do that, and Beth says she didn't see her doing anything, now move or join her. Cody clings to Eva and Eva pulls him off, the monster seeing them both and Yugi stopping in his tracks before shoving Eva and Cody out of the way, but getting caught as a result. Eva would glare at Cody, but Cody would tell her that they need to focus on the challenge to find him and save him. All of the campers inevitably get caught, with the exception of Cody and Eva at the end, where Cody tells Eva that he's made a makeshift EMP. It'll disable the robotic monster for a second, but he needs to get caught for him to be in range. Eva tells him to let her do it. He then has to find the trailers. The plan goes underway, and though the robot gets halted for a moment, it quickly comes back to life as Cody runs to the trailers and barely makes it, winning the first challenge and getting exclusive decision rights on the trailer the rest of the campers occupy. The first episode ends with Yugi wondering what this season will hold. There has been no elimination and no teams yet. He's in unfamiliar territory. Tyler asks if he's nervous, and Yugi admits he is. Tyler reciprocates, saying he's also nervous. He got Lindsay caught in the last challenge. Usually when he fails, it's just impacting him, but now his occasional mistakes are being a hindrance to Lindsay. Yugi tells him they can work on improving that in the future, but for now, staying up won't do any of them good, especially if the challenge is early tomorrow. Episode 2 starts with Chris revealing it's time to pick teams. The top 2 from the last challenge will be team leaders, which means Cody and Eva will be...
Wait, really? He's doing it now? That's usually at the end of this episode. Ooh, I'm interested.
The team leaders. Courtney would ask why her boyfriend, the previous finalist, isn't choosing it, and Gwen reminds her that it's a new season. That doesn't matter anymore. Courtney is still
Very true.
salty but backs off. Cody has to start with a girl, so he chooses to bring Gwen to his team, with Eva having to bring a male to his team and ultimately deciding on Yugi. Cody would be a bit disappointed since he was going to pick Yugi next. Yugi would thank Eva for picking him, making Eva awkwardly have to acknowledge it, not used to genuine emotion yet.
Does she have a
Cody chooses
crush?
Trent next, Eva chooses Lashana next, Cody chooses Sadie next, Eva chooses Harold, admittedly having a lot of respect for him after Battle City. Cody says that was a mistake and picks DJ, attributing his physical strength to raw performance. Eva chooses Lindsay. Cody has no good option for a female representative, but chooses Heather since at least she can't lie. Eva chooses Duncan, Cody chooses Justin, Eva chooses Beth, and so the final two are Courtney and Tyler, where Courtney goes on Cody's team and Tyler goes on Eva's. Tyler would say that he doesn't like being picked last, but at least there's no twist that they'll be eliminated, right, Chris? Chris would say, nope, you just get the shame of being somebody nobody wants.
Oh,
Same
poor
for
Tyler.
Courtney. Courtney would tell him that it doesn't bother her at all. She's used to being underestimated. Cody's team are named the Screaming Gaffers, while Eva's are the Killer Grips. They are then told that their first challenge will be to search and retrieve alien eggs while avoiding being hunted down by an alien played by Chef. The team with the most eggs at the end wins immunity and won't have to send someone home. Yami would activate for the first time
Really?
this season and say that this is just a higher stakes version of Cops and Robbers or Capture the Flag. They've got this. Cody says to listen up. He's thought of a plan. Courtney tells him to shut up. She's thought of a plan. Heather says her plan is better. The group devolves into arguing until Trent tells them to be quiet. Cody is the team leader, so he's going to make the plan. In confessional,
Trent.
Courtney would say that this team is going to crash and burn without her leadership. Cody says that
No, it
one
won't.
team will be the decoy team. Their purpose will be to keep Chef occupied for as long as possible while the other four get eggs. With any luck, they should end the challenge with more eggs. Group A is Gwen, Trent, DJ, and Sadie, while the decoy team will be him, Justin, Heather, and Courtney. Courtney would protest being on the decoy team, but Heather tells her to stop complaining as she goes into the maze
you,
along with
Heather.
everyone else. Tyler tells Yami to wait up. Yami tells him that it'll be less effective if they're grouped together, and Tyler says he knows that. He just wanted to go to the same place together. Yami would just try to find the eggs with Tyler walking along. Harold asks Lashana if she wants to see the deck he's been working on, and Lashana says not really. Duncan laughs and tells Harold better luck next time, to which Lashana would tell him to shut up. Beth would ask Lindsay if she wants to tag along, and Lindsay says that people don't seem to like her. She's afraid people will not like her if she hangs around Beth. Beth would say she understands and be disheartened as she walks alone, only to get caught moments later by Chef. Eva
Yeah, you
looks
deserve
around
that.
trying to find the killer. She thinks she sees the silhouette and punches whatever is around the corner, only for it to be revealed to be Justin, and Eva
Oh.
quickly apologizes. Justin
Justin.
says it's fine, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger and all that. They then hear the sprinklers turning on from above as Eva and the decoy group get sprayed by mysterious alien goo, and as a result they've been caught. Courtney says, good plan, Cody, now all our decoys are gone. Cody says he didn't know about the sprinklers, but Heather just says she's gonna take a shower as she leaves. Justin tells Cody he'll be fine, he still trusts him. Tyler asks Yami how he
Thank you,
seems to be so skilled, and Yami tells him to shut up, he hears something. Yami spins to run and crashes into Tyler. Chef rounds the corner and shoots them both. Yami glares at Tyler and Tyler is ashamed. Yami wondered if he could help someone as oblivious as Tyler if he couldn't even sense the tension in the air. Sadie is walking with her group of Trent, Gwen, and
Calm
DJ
down
before
onto him.
asking if they heard that, and they all start to run. Sadie falling behind, and nobody turns back to help her as Chef takes her out. The group finds the egg room, and DJ tells Gwen and Trent to grab eggs. He'll keep Chef distracted. The two thank DJ before leaving to go deliver the eggs. DJ gets shot by Chef in an overdramatic death scene where he'd then leave to chase Gwen and Trent. Harold, Lashana, and Duncan enter the room afterwards, and Lashana would tell Duncan it was a good plan to follow behind Chef. Harold would say it's a logical option, they're just lucky Chef never looked behind him. Chef throws a makeshift grenade filled with slime into the room and shuts the door. The three panic before Harold jumps onto the grenade, it going off, and Harold tells them to leave without him before pretending to die. Duncan rolls his eyes
Rest
and
of Harold.
grabs an egg as him and Lashana leave, with Lashana telling Harold thank you. The four reach the end and Chris says that the score is 2-2, so it's a tie. That is until they see the cameras and realize Lindsay is still in it. She enters the room and sees the eggs, and Harold and DJ, who are just chatting and bonding over their sacrifice, welcome her in. Lindsay asks if she's in the egg room, and DJ nods his head. Lindsay says cool and grabs an egg before getting ready to go to the destination.
Run,
Chef
Lindsay,
suddenly
run.
arrives and prepares to shoot Lindsay. Duncan slams a plank of wood foot on the back of Chef's head to knock him out and tells Lindsay to go to the end. Lindsay walks peacefully to the end, where Chris would announce that the Killer Grips win.
Woo!
The Screaming Gaffers will go to the elimination tonight. The Screaming Gaffers try to form a formal event where they unanimously agree on who goes. Cody starts by saying he thinks Courtney should go. It's not personal. Well, it is, but she doesn't fit here. Courtney rolls her eyes and says that's rich, considering that the only reason they lost was due to his poor planning. Cody says he didn't know Chef would have sprinklers installed, but Heather would say that a leader that can't plan for everything can't win anything. Cody is
Rude.
disheartened, but Trent asks if they're really gonna ditch their leader after one bad performance, and the room goes quiet. DJ says he was shot 8 times by Chef, and Sadie says it hurts more on bare skin. Justin would say that he got punched, and Courtney would say, see, he's unfit to be the leader. Gwen would say, what, and you are? Just admit this is an attempt at taking the reins from Cody. Courtney says she would love nothing more, but regardless, Cody sucked today. Gwen would say she can't believe them. They're voting Courtney off, and that's final. Trent says yeah, what she said, before awkwardly leaving out of embarrassment. Chris welcomes them to the Gilded Chris ceremony.
Goodbye,
They
Cody.
will now cast their votes on the devices under their seats, and no peeking. If you get a Gilded Chris, you're safe. Gilded Chris awards go to Trent, Gwen, DJ, Justin, Sadie, surprisingly Heather, and last but not least, Courtney. Cody says, but I thought everyone liked me. Courtney says liked being the operative word. Justin in confessional says sorry buddy, but I don't take a punch and then a goo shower without a win guaranteed. DJ reciprocates in his confessional saying sorry man, can't let this happen again. Sadie in confessional says she hates Courtney, but that shot left a mark on her back. Gwen tells him that she can't believe they do this, and Courtney tells her to be quiet, this team is under new and improved management. Trent says he'll walk Cody to the dock. Cody says he doesn't get it. He thought they'd forgive him, and Trent tells him to look. Those guys made a mistake. They'll see that soon enough. Don't take it personally. They just seem
Cody.
to forget how evil Courtney is. We'll be in the finale together next season. Cody thanks him and goes into the limousine. He'd say while inside of it that it's a shame he's leaving so soon. He's honestly still trying to wrap his head around it, but at least it wasn't Gwen or Trent that left. He hopes Yugi can make it far as well. Yugi is a bit saddened to see Cody go and walks back to the cabin where Tyler is there, and he says that he knows Yugi is probably pissed at him and he's decided that he'll train in private from now on. Yugi tells him that he's not mad at him, they won the challenge after all. Tyler would say that's good. Can he show him the deck he's been working on? Yugi says he didn't know he played, and Tyler says that Harold let him take some of the cards from his supply. He has a giant case of them. Yugi says that sounds like Harold, let's see what you got so far. Episode 3 starts with Yami asking if
I definitely see Tyler as a Joey kind of dude. Like, basically, like, he starts out very terrible, like, straight up, like, he is god-awful, but yet, throughout the season, he'll probably become better and better to the point where he probably is in, like, the final 5. That is my prediction. Tyler makes it to the final 5, like, because he's the Joey stand-in.
Tyler's even trying, and Tyler says that it's not his fault, he's just not getting any good cards. Yami points out he built his own deck, and Tyler says yeah, because he needed a certain amount of cards. If it was up to him, he'd just have a deck of only time wizards and baby dragons. Yami would be intrigued for a moment. He's running that deck. Yami would say that he needs less monster cards and more spell cards then. Tyler would groan in response, spell cards? Really? I hate reading all the effects. Yami would point out that's why he's lost 11 straight games in a row, and Tyler concedes and says he'll start reading them. Lindsay asks what they're playing, and Yugi comes back and says they're playing duel monsters. It's really fun. Lindsay sees the Kuribo and says she wants one of them. Yugi tells her that the good part about duel monsters is that you can build a deck that's entirely yours. So if you want a deck of only cute creatures, you can make that a reality. Lindsay asks Tyler if he'll help her, and at first Tyler wants to refuse under the basis that he's still learning, but after looking back at Yugi's much better deck, he accepts, deciding to learn with Lindsay rather than wasting Yugi's time. Eva asks if she can test hers out now, and Yami says it would be a welcome change of pace. Duncan asks Harold if he does anything other than play that stupid game, and Harold says it's not stupid and he needs to constantly be changing his deck to keep up with Yugi. Duncan says this stuff is so lame, it's all kid stuff with no real value, before seeing Summon Skull and going quiet as Harold knows he's been captured by the allure of the cards.
That is something so accurate. Like, the fact when Duncan sees a card as badass as Summon Skull, that would definitely take his breath away. Like, I definitely agree with that 100%. That is so accurate to any kind of lore.
Duncan asks if the card is good, and Harold says it's one of the best for its cost. Duncan stretches his hand out, and Harold tells him to ask politely, to which Duncan says he's already humiliating himself enough playing this kid's game. Harold decides to hand him a deck he built around Summon Skull. Duncan chokes out a weak thank you before leaving. Beth asks Lashana if she wants to team up as the only two girls who don't play duel monsters, and Lashana would say no, her reasoning being because of the events from the last season. Beth says that she got her payback for that, she was eliminated. Lashana says maybe so, but she's still mad about it, so that's how it is. Beth leaves defeated and alone once again. Gwen asks Trent what they're gonna do, and Trent says he doesn't know where anything falls anymore. Before, he had a rough idea on the elimination order, but now he has no idea. DJ comes over and says he's sorry, he voted out Cody. Trent asks DJ if he asked for an apology, and DJ says he didn't, but Trent says no, you don't get to be sorry, you're still here. You may have taken a few shots in the last challenge, but at least you still remain. DJ says he can't talk because he didn't get shot last challenge. He's sorry, that's all he wanted to say. He leaves, and Trent asks if he went too far, and Gwen says she doesn't know, she's hurting too. Justin whimpers at his black eye, and Sadie tells him to let her see it, she can put some makeup on it. Justin would tell her that would be amazing. Courtney asks Heather who they should target next, Gwen or Trent. Heather says neither. If we start getting rid of them deliberately, we'll be picked off. They don't think we're leaders yet. We need to keep attacking weak links in their chain to split them apart. Courtney says that she hopes they learn she's the leader soon. Heather in confessional would say that she can't lie, but withholding the truth isn't lying. She's 100% gonna betray Courtney to take the leader position from her. Gwen and Trent are really the only threats to that. I just need Courtney to think she needs me. Chris announces today's challenge is for each team to set up a film set. It'll go on the highest point of the island, which is a long trek up a hill. Yugi struggles immensely, but Tyler is there to catch his slack, only for him to go falling down the cliff with the equipment moments later. Eva tells him to pick himself back up. They're already behind. Heather implements a relay system, something Gwen doesn't want to do, but as the others agree, the two back down, realizing that they're slowly getting washed into the minority. When the two teams arrive at the top, Chris informs them that the next part of the challenge will be performing a play, and the team that makes Chef show emotions win. Courtney would ask who they can get here to play a tough guy for their play, and Trent says to let him do it, he'll show his bad boy edge. Heather says, yeah, right, DJ looks more threatening than you. Justin, you think you can do it? Justin says he was born ready. Sadie says she calls makeup crew, and Gwen says that nobody was gonna take it from her. DJ is pulled by Chef into an alliance, with Chef revealing he sees a lot of himself in DJ before he went to the military. Now he's gonna toughen DJ up. Eva asks who they can get to play an old grandmother, and Duncan says why not Lindsay? She's as forgetful as a real grandma anyway. Lindsay says, aw, thanks David. Lashana wants to point out that it wasn't a compliment, but decides it would be too much of a headache. Yugi continues to struggle, being no help during the preparation and being as much of a hindrance as Tyler during the first part. Yami would not activate to help, manual labor is not a game. During the presentation part, Justin is overacting, making exaggerated movements, exaggerating his lines, and overall just not doing too well. Lindsay constantly forgets her lines, breaks character, and even starts to trip, but this causes an emotion that nobody expected from Chef, laughter. He's reveling in her misery as she accidentally tears down the entire set while still trying to get through her rehearsal. With this in mind, the Killer Grips win their second challenge in a row. Justin says that clearly some people don't understand good acting, with Gwen telling him to stick to modeling. This upsets Justin immensely, who'd note in confessional that Gwen is a weird goth chick. What does she know about acting? Courtney goes to Sadie and tells her that Gwen and Trent tried to convince her to vote off Justin. Sadie would normally be more cautious, but since it's about Justin, Sadie 100% believes this and tells Courtney that she'll vote with her, but this is not an alliance. Courtney would say that's fine, and in confessional would say that she didn't want an alliance with Sadie anyway, she just needs to be useful for one vote. Gwen and Trent ultimately decide to vote for Justin since he did fail the challenge for them. At elimination, Chris would tell them to cast a vote to determine who will leave. Chris would give Gilded Chris awards to Trent, Sadie, Heather, DJ, Courtney, and finally, Justin. Gwen would be shocked but say everyone's gotta go at some point, right? Trent would be shocked. He'd ask what they think they're doing. Gwen is one of the best members on the team. Courtney says maybe to him, and Heather says yeah, just consider yourself lucky that we didn't target you. Trent wants to argue, but Gwen says it's okay. Trent asks what he can even do without her here, and Gwen says he can do a lot on his own. Chris would receive a call, and Chris would glare at Chef as Chef says oh no. Chris would say that he just got off the phone with his new boss. Apparently one of you formed an alliance with Chef. As you know, this is a show of equal opportunity and equal amounts of opportunity to be a loser forever. As a result, we can't have cheating like this in our game. My hands are tied, DJ. You're out. Everyone would be shocked, and DJ would say he didn't even do anything, and Chef would say that's right. If they were really in an alliance, he'd have made DJ's team win. Chris says that's a good good point. Bring it up to Kaiba when he sees him. DJ would tell him it's not how he wanted this to go, but at least he doesn't have to be in an alliance he didn't want. He goes to the dock of shame where Chef asks DJ if he can lie and say it was his idea, and DJ tells him to screw off. Episode 4 begins with Gwen not believing she's still here. Trent tells her that he's happy
DJ.
She's still with them, and that eases Gwen's mind a little bit. She did admittedly like DJ, so this elimination did hurt, but knowing she's still here with Trent puts her mind at ease. Heather walks up to the two, and Gwen says to leave. They both hate her. Heather says that the feeling is mutual, but here's the thing, she wants Courtney gone. Gwen would ask what's in it for her to do that, and Heather says she simply wants an arranged peace treaty. Gwen raises an eyebrow, and Heather says that as long as she helps them get rid of Courtney, they can't vote her off until merge. Deal? The two think for a moment, but eventually budge and agree to it. Courtney would tell Justin to stop playing with those ugly cards, and Justin says that for her information, his deck is only filled with beautiful monsters. Courtney says that's great. How about you focus on the game? You're gonna get rid of Gwen next at the vote, right? Justin says sure, whatever, and Courtney tells him that's not good enough. She needs a definitive answer. Sadie tells her to back off. Her and Justin are playing right now. Courtney leaves in annoyance. Yugi thinks for a moment before placing a card face down. Harold mounts his attack. Summon Skull with Excalibur attacks your life points directly, and there's nothing you can do to stop it.
Wait, doesn't Excalibur only work with warriors? Summon Skull's a fiend. Or am I thinking of a different card? There's over 10,000 cards, so I'm probably forgetting some.
He's interrupted by Yugi flipping his face down card to reveal Magic Cylinder, and Harold loses as a result. Yugi says he always falls for that, and Harold says he wants to win so badly he doesn't think about the counterattack. Tyler tells Eva that those two are incredible, and Eva says that she'll reach that level soon enough. Beth sneaks into the cabin and looks in Harold's case, looking through the decks before finding the deck she resonates with. As she leaves, Lashana asks what she thinks she's doing, and Beth tries to hide the deck before Lashana tells Beth to stop hiding it. Harold doesn't care if you take a deck, he has copies for that reason. Beth is a bit embarrassed, and Lashana groans as she says that she's not forgiving her yet, but she looks like a lost puppy. Beth asks what she can expect. She's alienated by everyone. Lashana says to duel her then. She needs someone to test her deck on.
Really?
Beth quickly accepts. Duncan asks Lindsay if she wants to duel, and Lindsay says that she'd love to, but all her cards are in the graveyard. Chris then tells them all about their next challenge. It's going to be a beach movie challenge, with the first part being to balance on a surfboard while avoiding objects being shot at them. Standout members from each side would be Trent, Gwen, and Courtney from the Gaffers, and Eva, Lashana, and Duncan from the Grips. In the end, Grips take the victory due to Duncan's surfboarding skills.
Woo!
The next part has them competing in a sandcastle building contest, with Grips getting a 30-minute head start thanks to their win in the previous challenge. The Grips run like a well-oiled machine while the Gaffers argue about what to build. In the end, seagulls swoop down and destroy the Grips sandcastle. Round 2 goes to the Gaffers. The tiebreaker will be a dance-off. Lashana begs to be put up, pointing out that she's the dancing queen back home. They inevitably decide to choose her since they have no better option, and Trent chooses to go on the Gaffers, with Gwen telling him to break a leg out there, to which Trent would point out they probably lose if that happened, getting Heather to roll her eyes at the corniness of the two of them. Lashana starts dancing, and everyone besides Harold realizes that this was a massive mistake, as Lashana is a terrible dancer, and Trent is dubbed the winner by Chris, bringing a win to the Gaffers they desperately needed.
Good for them.
Lets the Grips know that one of them is going home. Chris welcomes them to the Gilded Chris ceremony. If they get a Gilded Chris award, then they're safe. The one who doesn't will need to pack their bags and get into the limousine. Gilded Chris awards go to Eva, Yugi, Tyler, Lindsay, Harold, and Duncan. Lashana, Beth, you two have plenty of reasons to be eliminated. Beth says she does not, and Chris tells her to zip it. As he was saying, you both have plenty of reasons to leave tonight, but it seems like the cast has forgiven you, Beth. He tells us they're the last Gilded Chris, and Lashana is shocked, asking if it was really because of her dancing before accepting that she's lost. As she's walking, Chris tells her to wait. This episode has a special twist. You're not leaving, you're going to the Gaffers. Lashana and the rest of the cast are shocked, but Lashana says she knew her dancing was actually better. You're such a kidder, Chris. Lashana tells them she'll see them around as she goes to the Gaffers' cabin. Yugi comforts Harold, telling him it's okay. It's not like she's off the island.
Episode 5 starts with everyone on the island dealing with a terrible heat wave. Nobody is handling it well, but Chris lets them know that they'll be going west this week for their challenge. The challenge this week is to jump off of a diving board onto a horse. Yugi would tell Tyler he isn't sure if Yami will activate or not, and Tyler says he's impressive on his own, right? Heather would interrupt, yeah, impressively bad. The Gaffers are first, and Gwen falls onto the horse. Trent quickly going to Gwen and accidentally accidentally hurting her as he tries to help her up, Lashana shoving him out of the way to help her up. Trent says things can't go any worse until he falls onto the fence instead of the horse. Justin would think about going, but Courtney would tell him to relax with her down here, and Justin would begin to fall for her charm. Duncan asking what she thinks she's doing, and Courtney would say she's just helping her team. Courtney in confessional says that she wasn't gonna jump, so she just needed to make sure Justin stayed behind as well. Sadie says that if Justin won't do it, she won't either. Lashana says, really? No wonder this team lost 2 members already. Harold goes next and succeeds just for Duncan to fall on him moments later. Tyler grabs Lindsay's hand and tells her that it's okay, the 2 of them will jump together. As they're falling, Tyler realizes he will miss the horse and he lets go of Lindsay to not drag her down with him as he hits the ground and Lindsay falls on the horse. Lindsay asks if Tyler's okay, and Tyler isn't really in any state to communicate. Eva quickly pulls Tyler out, telling him that it was a good job bailing when he did. Any later and Lindsay would have failed too. Lashana and Heather go next and the 2 begin to fight as they climb, ending with the 2 getting stuck on the roof of a barn. Chris then says that with that, there's no possible way for the gaffers to tie it up. The Grips win part 1 of the challenge. Gwen says that she's glad they pulled their weight, and Courtney says whatever, they'll just win the next round. Sadie drinks all the water for the quick draw cowboy shootout, and so Chris creates a new challenge, calf roping. Grips have to rope all the cattle or gaffers to win. If the cattle dodge the cowboys long enough, they win. Chris would be tied up by Chef after Chris mocks his outfit. Yami activates but is a bit unimpressed as Justin tells him not to lasso him too hard. Rope burns are a serious pain to get out of skin, with Sadie quickly quitting as well after hearing that. Lindsay throws her rope around Tyler, capturing him right before he catches Courtney off guard. Courtney would be angered by that potential loss and commands Duncan to give her his lasso. Harold tells him not to do it, but Duncan does so, and Courtney tells him thank you before lassoing Duncan and springing to action, grabbing the rope that tied up Chris and freeing her teammates. The gaffers mounting their offense as they catch everyone besides Eva and Yami. Eva asks if he has any plans, and Yami tells her to go down, taking as many ropes with her. Duncan pulls his knife out of his pocket and cuts himself free before rushing at Courtney. Courtney just kicks him back to the ground as she ensnares him again, Eva using this moment to rush in and take as many ropes as possible. Yami lassos Courtney, who screams from her loss, and as Eva is about to pry the rope from Lashana, Chris comes in and says that time is up. Gaffers, you aren't all captured, and so you win. Grips, time to go to elimination. Chris would welcome the Grips to their second elimination ceremony, telling them that if they get a Gilded Chris, they're safe. For
Duncan's
now.
out.
Gilded Chris awards go to Eva, Harold, Tyler, Beth, Yugi, and finally Duncan. Tyler would ask why Lindsay is going, and Eva says it's because she captured you. Tyler would say he didn't care about that though. Duncan gave Courtney the ammunition to fight back to begin with. Harold says yeah, but he was pretty much the sole reason we almost won. Tyler would ask Yugi who he voted for, and Yugi would tell him that he did vote for her. The fact is that Duncan made up for that mistake and Lindsay didn't. Lindsay would tell Tyler it's okay, she's out. Tyler would tell Lindsay they would know a good teammate if it hit them in the head, and Lindsay would say that he's nice. They're about to kiss each other goodbye, but Chris interjects and tells them it's a 22-minute show, and Lindsay gets into the limousine.
Yet he allows Chef and Bridget to be making out all episode, and yet he won't allow him to kiss once. That's sad.
Beth in confessional would say that she didn't want to vote for Lindsay, but she needs Duncan here to act as a meat shield before her. Does this make her a bad person? In episode 7, to start things off, Yugi would ask Tyler if he wants to duel, and Tyler would say he's done playing it. Yugi would feel guilty as he'd know the only reason he's this way is because of him and what he's done. He wants to say something but knows that trying to force it will be worse. Yugi would look through his deck for a moment before laying a card down on the table, and Tyler would say, "Didn't you hear me? He looks at the card and stops for a moment. Swords are revealing light. The opponent can't declare an attack for 3 turns while this spell is activated on the field. Tyler knows that this will be a useful addition to his deck. The only question is if he has the strength to continue it. Beth asks Duncan if they can talk, and Duncan cuts through her hospitality by saying that she wants an alliance with the person who's most likely to be eliminated, right? Beth would try to argue against it, but Duncan says it's alright, he needs an ally right now, so he accepts. Eva asks Harold why she wants Sangan in her deck, and Harold brings up that if the card is sent to the graveyard, she can add a monster with 1500 or less attack to her hand. Eva points out she doesn't have any cards under 1500 attack. Gwen tells Trent that she can't understand how he always wins, and Trent says he just built his deck to flow together and have an option regardless of which cards he draws. Gwen says that's great, now how about she help him? He could have easily made it into Duelist Kingdom if this is how good his deck is. Trent says he's more here to help her. He doesn't want to be famous for playing dual monsters. Gwen says that's his loss, he's good at it. Heather asks if the two can stop playing all these nerd games, but Trent tells her to try it. Look, here's a card perfect for her. Change of Heart. Target one monster the opponent controls and takes control of it until the end phase. Heather asks how many cards are like this, and Trent tells her that she can build a whole deck around it if she wants. Heather says perfect and leaves. Gwen tells him that he doesn't know what he's just done to dual monsters. Justin has all the monsters set to win, but then he says this is all he needs. He ends his turn. Sadie asks what he's doing. He has all the numbers needed to win. Justin says yeah, but if he attacks, that monster will send one of his cards to the graveyard and that will ruin his lineup. Sadie says right and plays Raigeki, destroying all of his monsters before attacking and winning the duel. Courtney facepalms and asks if this is really the most exciting game, and Lashana says at least she'll have an easy time breaking into the top 5. Courtney realizes the truth of that statement. In confessional, she says she would never sully herself with this garbage, but at least it can make her the queen of the island. All she has to do is take down Yugi and everyone will listen to her. Chris welcomes them all to their next challenge. Before we start, everyone welcome back DJ. Courtney asks what he's doing back here, and Chris says that Chef admitted it was all his plan, so Kaiba gave him a lighter punishment while DJ gets to be put back in since the gaffers haven't gone to elimination since then. Trent says, alright DJ, come over here and let's destroy the grips. Chris says, ooh, unfortunately Trent, you have 8 members already. Instead, DJ will go on to the grips. Duncan in confessional says, thank God, he could use an ally right now. Duncan fist bumps DJ and Chris continues, alright, now that you're all settled in, time for the prison movie challenge. Round 1 will have both teams selecting a person from the opposing team to be locked into a cage while you prepare gross food for them to eat. The gaffers ultimately choose Yugi while the grips choose Courtney. At the very least, they can force Courtney to eat gross stuff. While they're cooking it, DJ's integrity as a cook forces him to make it better with Mama Spice, and as Yugi takes a bite, he retches from the terrible taste. Courtney, on the other hand, devours it, even licking Beth's retainer that fell into it clean. Beth would take it from her and insert it into her mouth as Yugi vomits at the disgusting display, giving the gaffers the shovel they'll use for the
fact they thought that was a good idea, that's disgusting. I'm talking about the show. Why the fuck would you put your retainer in after it was covered in vomit, Beth? I know you're a disgusting person, but Jesus.
Next part. Yugi tells him he's sorry, and Courtney in confessional says that was edited footage. There's no way she'd ever do anything as gross as that. Part 2 starts with Chris telling them that one member will push a laundry cart with the rest of the team in it through an obstacle course before digging a hole back to the trailers for immunity. DJ volunteers, but Gwen points out that if it veers off course, he could potentially hurt his teammates, and DJ decides to get into the cart instead. Eva tells him that it was a mind game before grabbing the cart for the team, telling everyone else to get into it. Heather tells Gwen good job, now they put their stronger member up. Lashana tells him to sit back, she's got this. As the two teams go, they seem relatively even until the halfway point where Lashana stops and says that some of them need to lose some weight. Heather looks at Sadie and Sadie asks what she's looking at her for. The grips reach her first, with Yugi being carried by Tyler as the grips only have spoons to use. Eva digs hard, she's making decent progress, but once the gaffers reach the dig site, it's clear it's not enough. She becomes frustrated, saying this is impossible. Yugi asks why they can't just intersect their tunnel with the gaffers and take their shovel, to which Duncan would say that's genius. He'll seal the tunnel back up after they get it. They decide to make their tunnel pivot into the path of the gaffers, and as they shuffle their way through, a hand bursts out of the dirt and yanks the shovel, with Duncan kicking a support beam he set up, dirt blocking the way to their tunnel as they tunnel to the end. Chris awards the grips immunity. Heather says that's not fair, they stole the shovel, and Chris says it wouldn't be a prison break without the two sides fighting and only one making it out.
That's
Bonus
very
points
true.
for the realism grips. Chris turns to the gaffers and tells them he'll see them at elimination. Before the vote, Courtney tells Sadie and Justin that they're voting off Lashana. They can't risk the newbie making an alliance with Gwen and Trent fully. As the two agree, Courtney would say, good, now come on Justin, you're helping me build my deck. You go off and do whatever you do, Sadie. As Courtney leaves with Justin, Lashana would say that's messed up. She wouldn't take that disrespect if it happened to her. She then leaves as Sadie walks away with these emotions. Chris welcomes them to the Gilded Chris ceremony. Gwen, Trent, Heather, Justin, Sadie, you're safe another week. Tonight's final Gilded Chris and another chance at the million goes to Lashana.
Oh, yeah.
Courtney says, what? But I have the votes. Chris says, actually, it's a 2 to 4 to 1 vote. Someone must have flipped or not voted who you said. Sorry, Courtney. Courtney grits her teeth as she walks to the limousine. Heather yelling to not let the door hit her on the way out as Courtney tells them Heather isn't a good person either. They'll see. At least she had the interests of the team in mind. Duncan rushes over and Courtney says, oh good, you can quit for me. Duncan says, what? Oh, dream on, sister. He's just here to wish this relationship goodbye. Courtney says, you can't do that. Duncan says actually I can, and unless you accept me for who I am, we ain't having a future together. Courtney says that he's so lucky that he's still in these games before slamming the door shut behind her. Duncan shouts at her asking if that means she accepts. And as there's no answer, Duncan says, "Oh man, I totally blew it." Justin in confessional would say that it's a shame Courtney is gone, but at least he got the card she was using. Plenty of cards with beauty as well as power in here. Sad to see you go, Courtney. You can build a hell of a deck. Episode 8 begins right after the elimination. Yugi would whisper to Eva that he can't believe Courtney is gone, and Duncan would be downtrodden over his breakup with Courtney. Harold would say it's better off this way as Duncan asks who locked the doors to the trailer. Chris enters and tells them that he's here to prep them for their most awesome challenge yet. These textbooks hold approximately 8 years of med school. Each person gets one because tomorrow they're playing doctor. Duncan in confessional would say he hates doctors, all they do is order people around, but he can handle being in charge for a change. To win this challenge, each contestant should try to memorize all of it by morning. Heather interrupts saying it's already so late, and Chris says she's got that right as Chef comes in with a bunch of pizzas.
Ooh,
and
pizza.
What med school all-nighter would be complete without pizza? Lashana says this has to be a trick, and Chris says it's more like method acting. Med school students consume 850% more pizza than the average human, so dig in, because there's plenty where that came from. DJ is prepping the pizza, and he tells Chef it was cool of him to take the fall like that, and Chef says he didn't do it for him. Kaiba threatened to take away his vacation time and make him a janitor if he didn't tell the truth. DJ says still, he could have lied, and it would have kept him from coming back. Chef tells him to shut up. Whatever nice thing he thinks he did for him is just a coincidence. Chef in confessional says I couldn't hurt DJ. Sure, he's soft, weak, and makes me infuriated every time I see weakness in his eyes, but I already promised to whip him into shape, and I already saw part of that backbone when he left. The campers study, and Eva says she's just gonna go to sleep, but Yugi tells her she has to keep trying. Eva says fine.
You know what would be a good plot point? Him just trying to toughen up DJ. No cheating, no other. Just helping him become a man. That's actually a pretty nice idea. If that's where we're going with it, I'm honestly fine with that idea.
In 5 more pages. Lashana is the only one to not partake, being allergic to dairy. Harold tells Duncan to slow down. DJ hasn't had one yet. Duncan says he's going to bed then, and Lashana says she's out as well. Duncan tells Lashana it's a shame they aren't on the same team anymore. He would have totally asked for an alliance. Lashana says you're lucky. I would have voted you off next. Duncan says yeah, sure, whatever, and leaves. The next morning, everyone besides Lashana and Duncan are exhausted. Chris welcomes them all in. Today's challenge is called Visiting Hours. The team that wins will be given a special reward. The challenge is for everyone to assemble a cadaver. Each tank contains pieces of a cadaver. Every contestant will jump into a vat that holds the pieces. The first team to bring their Frank and Chris alive wins. Beth answers the first medical question correctly and gets to dive in first, grabbing an eel, to which Chris would tell everyone about the eels. 3 zaps and you're out. Beth gets the leg. Heather answers the next question correctly and gets an arm after being zapped twice. Tyler answers the next question correctly, it being a completely nonsensical term that doesn't actually exist. This continues for a while until the grips complete their cadaver, with the gaffers being only slightly behind. Before either team can finish, the gaffers see a red spot on Sadie's back and attribute it to a terminal disease. Sadie tries to grab onto Justin and the two are forced into a bubble together. Justin saying that this isn't cool, but Sadie says at least they'll die together, and Justin desperately slams his fists on the bubble. DJ has a sore next and they put him in a bubble. Everyone seems to be getting a symptom, with Yugi and Beth sweating up a storm. Lashana and Duncan are the only two who aren't struggling. Duncan brings up that they're the only two who weren't staying up, and yet they're the only ones who aren't sick. The two work together to escape to grab a textbook while Lashana goes to the kitchen for some evidence. Lashana and Duncan both arrive, revealing that everything in the books are full of lies before Duncan gets explosive diarrhea and runs away. Lashana reveals that the pizza was laced with itching powder and the sores are just pepperoni. The disease is just a hoax from everyone studying so much with so little sleep that they think they're sick. Chris tells Duncan and Lashana they did great, but only one side can win. Duncan, you tried your best, but Lashana didn't even partake in it. That means Lashana outsmarted everyone and deserves a win for her team. Lashana says I did. Chris says you did. For your reward, gaffers, one of you gets a whole night away from the film lot at a spa with their closest friend. The team begins to argue until Lashana begins to cry about how much this challenge affected her mentally. They ultimately decide to let her have the reward, as she was the reason they won the challenge. Lashana is dragged out, where she'd revealed to her cousin that she was fake crying the entire time to win the reward. She'd also begin smack talking about the other contestants. Kaiba would smile as he sees this. Oh, Lashana, let's hope that never gets out. Trent would go to Sadie and tell her about the plan to get rid of Heather at the next vote. Sadie asks if this is a trick to get rid of Justin, and Trent would raise an eyebrow asking who she thinks he is. Sadie inevitably accepts, saying she could never say no to him. Justin is frustrated as he loses with his new deck against his old one once again. He suddenly suddenly hear someone approaching and Justin spins towards the footsteps. Who's there? The figure walks slowly into view, long white hair,
Bakura?
pale skin, a smile that hides evil intent. Identity is such a tedious thing, don't you think?
Oh,
Mine is of no concern. Yours, on the other
interesting.
hand, is rather pitiful, isn't it? Justin tells him to stay back. How sweet, the little model thinks he has authority here. I can sense it, you know, the hunger, the desire to be seen as more than a pretty face. The boy with the puzzle made you think you weren't good enough as a model. You used to be content with being looked at. Now you want to be admired, feared even. And what are you as you stand? A beautiful piece of trash, discarded the moment the cameras turn away. Justin tries to reach for any words, but none come. I have the means to elevate you, to make you what you so desperately wish to be. Bakura extends his hand, the Millennium Eye rests in his palm, gold catching the light. Defeat the boy with the puzzle, bring me it, and this eye is yours forever. A small price for becoming a god among insects, wouldn't you say? Justin knows he should refuse, but as the eye glitters, he takes it.
Oh,
the
the
world
Millennium
goes
Eye.
black, and when he wakes up, the figure is gone. Justin reaches for his mirror, and the eye is now a part of him.
Episode
He has a
9 starts
Millennium
with
Eye?
Justin dueling Sadie. He sets all his cards down and Sadie asks what Justin will do now that he will have to sacrifice one of his cards to win. She clutches the Raigeki in her hand close. This is it. She is going to win. To her shock, she watches as Justin sacrifices a monster and obliterates her field, telling Sadie that her deck isn't even a warm-up. Sadie would be devastated, but in confessional says that she knows that wasn't Justin. Justin can be indifferent to her, but he'd never do that. Lashana asks what stick was shoved up his butt, and Justin would tell her that the opposite happened. He is finally beautiful. He shows off his golden eye, and Lashana says, gross, that's disgusting. Sadie quickly jumps in, saying she likes Justin's new look, and Justin would thank her, telling her to teach Lashana a lesson as he leaves. Yugi would feel restless, telling Duncan he'll be back in a second. He walks to the washroom, asking himself what's wrong with him before bumping into Justin and apologizing. Justin turning and Yugi sees the eye. He'd feel his heart drop, asking Justin where he got that, and Justin would say that it was bestowed upon him by God himself. Yugi would say that he has no idea what that is, and Justin would say actually he does, reading Yugi's mind. Pegasus, right? What a monster that guy was. Don't worry, Yugi, he won't be like him. He leaves and Yugi doesn't feel at ease anymore. Heather asks Yugi if she saw his eye. Imagine how much that would be worth. Yugi would say it's better off being buried. Duncan asks if Beth can just play a card already, and Beth tells him not to rush her. DJ would ask if everyone is playing the game now, and Duncan says pretty much. DJ would say in confessional that he feels pretty lonely being the only one not playing.
Well, there is an archetype based around fairies and angels, DJ. That's the most anti-demon thing there is. They literally are there to destroy the demons and fiends. Make a fairy deck. You will be You will be a halo in the community, I guess. I don't know. I just remember him saying his mother basically said it's anti-demonic or whatever. I forget the exact wording, but hey, fairy decks are basically the exact opposite.
But it's not like he can disobey his mama. Tyler places a card and Harold says he can't do that. He already played a monster card this turn. Tyler says he really doesn't understand this game. He sees Yugi is sad and asks if he's okay. Yugi says he doesn't know. Justin is. Tyler interrupts and immediately runs to Justin, asking what he thinks he's doing to Yugi, and Justin asks what he's doing here. He's not strong enough to speak to him like that. Tyler would ask what he means by that. He's plenty strong enough to beat him up. Justin would warn him not to try that. He learned a few neat tricks from Pegasus that he's been wanting to try. Tyler asks who Pegasus is, and Justin would say that he almost forgot. You only got into Duel Monsters recently. Tyler pulls out his deck, saying that he didn't even make it to Duelist Kingdom. They should be relative. Justin remarks that Tyler always says the stupidest things before pulling his own deck out. Yugi would quickly pull Tyler away, saying that if anyone is going to duel Justin, it should be him. Eva can't believe what she's seeing as she just lost to Trent. Gwen says, see, Trent is way too good at this game. Trent says that he really isn't, he's just okay. Gwen says if he's just okay, she's garbage. Heather asks Harold if he has a few cards to share, and Harold says he always does. He's just been memorizing the cards. Heather says that's perfect. Chris welcomes them all to their next challenge. Today's challenge is a horror movie challenge. To figure out which team gets which challenge, a scream-off will happen first, with one person on the team being the killer and the others being the victims. Whichever team has the loudest scream wins. The group seemed down to have either Duncan and or Eva until Beth interjects and says she can't scream. Back when she had her tonsillitis surgery, it went wrong and it removed her ability to scream. Eva says, goody, you're just full of...
So the fact that she's no longer able to scream, I'm pretty sure that's a lawsuit right there. Like, the fact that she lost that ability, she should have sued and didn't even need to participate because that's an easy $2 million at minimum.
Surprises, aren't ya? Now what'll we do? Yugi asks why they can't just make Beth the killer, and Eva says she's as scary as my 6th grade mascot. Before you ask, it was a gerbil. Yugi says to give it a chance, maybe it'll be good. Duncan says fine, but don't blame him when he doesn't scream. The gaffers choose Heather, Lashana saying she doesn't even need a mask to make them scared. Heather says ha ha, so funny. Heather tries to scare Justin, and Justin says that he won't wrinkle his skin by screaming. Harold on the other hand screams loud as Beth jumps out. Tyler is next, and Tyler says Beth isn't scary at all until he screams loudly as Beth enters. Lashana laughs at Heather as she tries to scare her, saying she's supposed to be scared of her. Eva and Yugi sit next to each other for part 3 before Beth tries to scare them, Yugi screaming in fear as Eva shoves Beth in response. Gwen and Trent kiss each other, and when Heather jumps out, they just give a weak scream in response. Chris gives the win to the Grips. The next part of the challenge is spending the night in the Chow Hall. Chris tells the gaffers a scary story about how a ghost haunts this film lot. Their task is to spend the entire night in the tent. If they do so, they win immunity and nobody goes home. He then tells the Grips that their task is to scare the gaffers out of the Chow Hall before dawn. If they win, nobody goes home. He lets them know that he told them a story about a spirit haunting the place. He leaves and the Grips try everything in their arsenal. The rest of the team leaving, all besides Justin, who remains. Justin tells them that he knows it's them. They can just save themselves the trouble and stop doing this. Justin notes in confessional that this little golden eye thing lets him read minds. They can try and pretend they're spirits as much as they want. I can read their mind and realize it's all a trick. The only thing here that transcends the mortal plane here is me. Suddenly, Justin hears someone speaking. Justin, you've fallen into temptation once again. Your sins will be punished. The room began to shift, the exit slowly melting as Justin quickly ran towards it and barely made it out, only to see the Chow Hall still in one piece and he's been tricked. Yami smiles on top of the tent at Justin as Justin realizes he was played. Chris declares the Grips the winners. Gaffers, you're going to elimination tonight. Chris welcomes them to the Gilded Chris ceremony. If you get a Gilded Chris award, you're safe. Sadie, Justin, Lashana, Trent, and finally Gwen, you're safe. Heather asks how this happened, and Gwen says not to act like she didn't vote for her. Heather says she did, but that's because the contract only discussed you voting for me, not me voting for you. Heather is about to leave betrayed, but Kaiba steps up and looks at Chris. He steps onto the podium and clears his throat, the elimination buzzing with questions, but Justin just stares at Kaiba, and Kaiba knows far too well already what Justin has become. As you all know, you are free to make deals with whoever you wish. However, that doesn't give anyone the right to shirk their duties and obligations. Gwen and Trent, you both agreed to the terms of the contract. You have also betrayed the terms of the contract. Let this be a lesson to everyone from this point on. If you betray your agreements, you will be punished. If you can't win without lying to people and not fulfilling your end of the deal, maybe you don't deserve to win at all. Gwen and Trent, one of you will quit and the other will live with the consequences. Trent tells Gwen to let him do this, but Gwen says no, let her. The fact is, Trent has only proven to her how skilled he can be. He just needs to believe that for himself. And regardless, she should have already left once already. Trent would be disheartened as he watches Gwen leave, wondering what he can do. He doesn't have any skills. Kaiba thanks them for their time, but internally notes that he's going to change one of the challenges so Justin can be dealt with. Justin washes his face looking into the mirror and seeing a monster. He just smiles in response. Good try, Yami. I'm no more of a monster than anyone else here. Heather looks at her deck with a smile. She won't use it yet, but there's sure to be a dual monsters challenge eventually. That's when she'll show off this deck. Sadie goes to Trent and tells him that she thinks something is wrong with Justin. Trent tells her that Justin doesn't like her. It's a tragedy. Sadie leaves annoyed at the insinuation that she couldn't tell that Justin didn't like her romantically already. Lashana tells Sadie that she's glad she's not the only one. Justin has changed, and she bets that it's because of that eye. Episode 10 starts with Harold asking DJ if he wants to try a deck, and DJ says, oh no, Mama would hate if he touched that stuff. Duncan says, dude, it's not devil worship. Justin tells DJ maybe it's good for him not to. He couldn't compete anyway. Lashana asks why he'd say that, and Justin says that it doesn't matter. DJ isn't on his team, so he doesn't have to pretend to like him. Lashana says that's true, but he doesn't have to say it. Heather says she can't lie. Might as well have everyone else share their true feelings. How about it, Grips? I bet you haven't forgiven Beth yet. Beth looks around at everyone as they all seem to be in an awkward situation, but Yugi is wondering why they hate her on his behalf. Harold notices the bendy straws on the table and is ecstatic about it, taking some for later, noting that they may have useful application in weird circumstances.
He's
Chris
not wrong.
enters and tells them that their day is going to be a total disaster. Get it? It's a disaster movie theme. Justin in confessional says that his hair is already a disaster. How long has he been dealing with all these split ends? Chris tells them that the first part of the challenge will be the earthquake of inevitable pain. Each team will have to run the course, testing their ability. First team to reach the top first wins. Chris tells the 2 teams to go. Both teams start off well, but as Chris causes the entire thing to shake, people start falling left and right. As Harold reaches the monkey bars, Chris throws a football right into his chest to knock him down. Chris puts the earthquake into overdrive, everyone clinging to the monkey bars. Chris then starts shooting golf balls at everyone, Eva acting like a shield while the gaffers all get pummeled. Justin saying
Eva.
not to aim for his face. Chris continues to escalate the earthquake. Eva takes the shots while everyone runs further through the course. Chef decides to throw objects at the contestants. While DJ is climbing over a wall, Chef throws his manifesto at DJ and it collides with DJ's jaw.
no!
Chef yells out for DJ, the grips quickly hounding around him. Chris saying that the grips win the first part of the challenge. Heather says that's not fair, their team made it first. Chris tells Heather that serious injury trumps all. Heather asks if he just makes up the rules as he goes, and Chris says he loves his job. Chef tells Chris that this is serious, man. DJ broke his jaw. DJ chokes out that it's okay, this is what he wanted. A helicopter with a stretcher comes down as 2 medics get him onto it. In the producer's room, Kaiba says he can't believe he actually won that bet. If he didn't know any better, he would have assumed Chef and DJ were still working together, but that's impossible. Congrats, DJ, you got injured. You'll get the money we agreed on. As DJ is hoisted into the sky, the grips wish him well. Chris saying, well, now that someone's been taken away and Kaiba has confirmed he's out for good, today's challenge will be a reward challenge. Harold would say he wishes it was Beth, and Yugi would say, okay, that's too far. Beth may have done some bad things in the past, but you can't just treat her like this, especially when I've already forgiven her. Harold says, but she, and Yugi says no. If you want to be mad at her on your terms, and don't use me as an excuse. Harold would feel terrible, and Chris would say, right. Well, time for part 2. Because of DJ's win, they earn a special piece of paper. He throws a paper airplane that hits Tyler in the eye, and Eva grabs it. It's just some stupid numbers. Beth points out that it could be a code. Chris tells them in this challenge they have to escape the submarine before it's too late. Heather asks, too late for what? Soon water begins to fill the submarine. Duncan tries to pull the hatch open with Tyler's help, but it doesn't budge. They all see a lock on the ground, and Harold says he can pick it. He spent a whole summer at Picky Steve's lockpicking camp.
Good
Beth
for you,
says
Harold.
that it's a combination lock, and Eva says that it must be relating to the paper, and Tyler says it hit his eye. He should bring it over. The 2 start fighting over it before it gets dropped into the water. Beth would say,
Tyler.
good going, guys. Now nobody gets to read the code. Lashawna, Trent, and Heather stack together to reach the hatch on the top, but fall. Trent tells them not to worry. They can and Heather
I just noticed an animation error. The pipe or the handle is not connected to it at all. How did I not notice that for almost 2 decades? Huh. How did I never notice that?
Back together to reach the hatch on the top, but fall. Trent
Then
tells
again, I don't
them
look
not
for
to
animation
worry.
errors.
They can just wait until the water reaches the top and escape. Justin says, funny, he didn't clock him as a thinker. As they reach the top, Justin grabs the hatch only to see a bunch of fire shoot out of the hatch while on the grips a shark shows up. Chris asks Chef if he's taking this a bit too far, and Chef complains, saying that he tries so hard every other week and he takes a break for some me time one time, and it's suddenly a tragedy. This challenge was to toughen DJ up anyway, and he's not here anymore. Chris says, seriously, maybe they should end the challenge. The water's getting pretty high and the kids are bad swimmers. Chef rolls his eyes and grabs the lever, but it snaps in half, and Chris freaks out at the possibility of them dying. Lashawna says they could die here and begins to cry, but Trent says not to cry, he'll find a way out. Lashawna asks who's crying. Lashawna never cries. Heather says yeah, because you were so quiet when a reward was on the line. Sadie says that she's a total sham, and Heather says wait, she lied to get the reward? Trent says to wait a second, let's not forget about who's always been there when there's problems. Sadie doesn't listen and yells that she wasted her spa night with Katie. The others glaring at Lashawna as Trent gets between them and tells them to stop. If they want to hurt anyone, hurt him. Justin says okay, the 3 ominously moving closer to him. Harold uses the bendy straws he collected at the beginning of the episode to build a makeshift snorkel as he picks the lock. It comes down to a wire, but he's able to do it, and all sides are free. Heather in confession would say that she doubts that's the only secret Lashawna is hiding. She can't prove it, but she knows there's something bigger at play. Chris tells the grips good Good job on the victory. Seems that the gaffers are a bit overdue. Yugi says that they still lost DJ, and Chris says, okay, didn't have you being the downer on my bingo card, but I can scratch that one off. Alright, now for the reward. Grips, you get an all-expense paid trip to British Columbia, staying in an inn teetering on an active volcano. To get there, it will start with a treacherous 8-day hike. He's interrupted by Duncan saying, no thank you. In confessional, Duncan says he didn't believe that they were really about to die. Were the producers out of their mind? Oh well, it would have been a sweet way to go. Harold says in confessional he always knew they were gonna be fine. He works well under pressure. Get it? Pressure. He's funny even when his life is in danger. Eva says they'll settle for some pop and some chips if that's okay. Chris says suit yourselves. More money for my end of the year bonus. Heather in confessional says that's what they call a prize. All they need after a challenge like that is a disaster-free vacation. Chef hangs up the spatula DJ used, saying he didn't know him for long, but he was a damn fine chef. I hope things are better on the other side. He gives a military salute before breaking down in tears. Episode 11 starts with everyone on the gaffers forming a vote to eliminate Lashana at the next chance they get. Trent would try to mediate once again, but Heather would say that if he bent any more backwards for her, she'd think that he's in love with her. Trent says that he just doesn't see the utility in arguing about this. Sure, she lied, but the opportunity is already gone. Heather asks if that's how he views all legal framework, and Trent says no, but the crime is so minor that he doesn't get why there's this witch hunt. I mean, we have no proof Lashana isn't grateful for it, right? Heather says, well, I guess not, but Justin says no, she took someone's perfectly valid spa day, and I know me or Sadie could have really used that pampering. Lashana enters and asks if they're really still mad about that. Get over it. This makes Trent facepalm as the other three reset back to hating her once again. Duncan tells Tyler to play a card, and Tyler tells him to shut up. He's trying to hear the heart of the cards or whatever. Beth asks Harold how many packs he's given out, and Harold says he's given out enough for her information. Beth would ask if he really still hates her, and Harold says that's what happens when you betray people, Beth. They get mad. Yugi asks Eva how he can get Harold to talk to Beth, and Eva says not to ask her. She's still figuring out how to talk to people in general. Chris welcomes them to their next challenge, a war movie challenge. Duncan notes in confessional that he's always wanted to be a Marine. Harold says he's so pumped. His squad in Battlefront has won 10 online multiplayer titles. The secret to their success is teamwork. Duncan tells him that this is real life. Sit back while he gets his Marine on. The rest of you are side dishes in comparison. Harold says he won't be talking when he pulls out his nun-yos, a pair of yo-yos tied together to act as nunchucks. Chris tells him the first part of the challenge is to skydive out of a plane. Justin tells Sadie that he has a proposition, and no, it's not marriage. Sadie stares at him with a flat expression, and Justin continues awkwardly. Well, we're pretty high up, and I need a soft place to land, so how about you go first? Sadie would glare at Justin, and Justin would tell her that he doesn't flash his eyebrows at just anyone. Is she blind? Chris tells them time to jump. Eva goes first, saying it's time to win the challenge. They don't even get a parachute. All of them inevitably jump out and realize they weren't actually going anywhere as they land safely on a mattress. Chris tells them the next challenge, creating a controlled explosion out of bombs filled with paint. Duncan says this is a challenge built for him, and Harold says he's a chemist, but as his explanations of chemistry fall on deaf ears, the team lets Duncan take charge. Yugi tells Harold that he's sure whatever he said was impressive. Lashana and Sadie flip Justin over in his hammock, and Justin asks what that was for. Lashana tells him that he needs to help, and Justin takes off his shirt to show off his 12-pack abs. Getting no reaction from the two as Justin wonders if he's really lost his mojo. Chris tells them time's up, and it looks like the gaffers didn't even start, but Trent tells Chris not so fast. Him and Heather built this. Admittedly, it's just a bunch of explosives scattered around, but it's probably better than nothing. The grips go first, and Duncan's explosion forms a skull, while the gaffers just have explosive power, not being controlled at all. Harold tells Duncan he did good, and Duncan says, yeah, no kidding, you're in my world, dork boy. Harold gritting his teeth in frustration. The next part of the challenge for the grips is to guard their chest full of secrets from the gaffers. Harold says I have to come up with a plan, and Duncan tells them to do what they want. He's setting booby traps. Yami tells him that he'd love to tag along, and Duncan agrees. Harold decides to create a trench with the rest following along. Heather tries to motivate her team, but as they rush in, the gaffers just fall into one of Duncan's traps and get sent back. Justin says that there's a scratch, he can't take this. Heather, let him go on leave. Heather tells him to man up and leaves. Justin asks Sadie if she still likes him, and Sadie Sadie says that honestly, he's not even that cute anymore. Justin in confessional says, me? Not cute? You know what's not cute? Fat slobs like Sadie. Yami holds his rope, being bored but noting that the silence is nice even if he doesn't do anything this challenge. As the gaffers rush in, Yami drops the rope and smoke fills the area as Harold defeats the gaffers with his nunyos. Duncan says that was actually really cool. They then are allowed to see into the trunk and realize the pointlessness of the war they'd fought. Sadie asks Justin if they can talk, and Justin asks why. She doesn't think he's cute. Sadie says she doesn't because he's not Justin anymore. He's someone else, and she knows it's the eye that's doing it. Justin asks who else she's told about this, and Sadie says nobody because she cares about him. She wants him to be okay. Justin says, really? Because I'll be honest, Sadie, I've never cared about you, not one single time. You've always just been an extra vote to me. Sadie says that's not true, but Justin walks away as Sadie breaks down crying.
Ouch.
At elimination, Chris says that this one is a nail-biter. Nobody is safe tonight. Heather, how do you feel after today? Heather says honestly, she feels pretty safe knowing the contract is enforced by Kaiba. Then there's Justin. Seems like people are tired of you. Are you worried? Justin says, nah, I ain't ever worried. Bad for the skin. Chris says, right. Gilded Chris Awards go to Trent, Heather, Lashana, and finally, Justin. Sadie is shocked as she's suddenly yanked away by Chef to be taken to the limousine. Justin in confessional says, I'm gonna miss Sadie. She was really good at doing makeup. Regardless, I just had to reinvent myself a bit to convince Lashana to vote my way. He unveils his new hair flip technique and says, see, I haven't lost my mojo. Sadie yells out, telling them all not to trust Justin as she's pulled away from the others. Episode 13 starts with Harold and Duncan arguing with each other, and Eva says they have to start working as a team. Duncan says they've been winning without it. Tyler tells them to shut up. They've been arguing the entire week. Beth says finally someone says it as she places a card against Yugi. Lashana tells the gaffer she's going to leave since she clearly isn't wanted. Trent telling her to stay, but it being to no avail. As she leaves, she's suddenly kidnapped. Eva says she's going to get some air, leaving only to get kidnapped as well. Chris drops into the chow hall
Eva
to
got
tell them
kidnapped
that
is
this
crazy.
week is paying tribute to bank heist movies. Yugi says that they're missing a player, and Heather says they're also missing a player, but they don't care. Chris says that Eva and Lashana are gone, but that's because rescuing them is the first part of the challenge. They've both been locked up in state-of-the-art safes. Their job is to break into the vaults, collect their equipment, and then get to the bank. Lashana says that this vault is better than being on her team. They've been giving her grief for the spot incident. She was just playing the game. Harold and Duncan fight over who deserves to unlock the safe, Eva saying she's punched it a few times. It's a little too hard for her. Both sides don't have an easy time with the safes. Justin telling Chris that super hot guys like them need to stick together, so how about Chris give him the code? Chris says that Justin's making him a bit uncomfortable. Yugi tells Eva she needs to unleash the rage she's been storing the entire season, and Eva says she doesn't think she's been. She begins to think of all the annoying things this season, and Yugi asks if she's okay as she goes quiet just for Eva to break open the vault with ease. They then have to go rob the bank, Tyler telling Eva that was awesome just for Eva to tell Tyler not to talk to her. She's decompressing. Everyone takes a step back from her. Justin tells Heather that he loves the team spirit, but why are they trying to free Lashana anyway? Heather says, good point. Trent interjects saying Lashana's a part of the team, like it or not. Justin says then stay and lose the challenge for us and get voted off. The two leave and Trent tells Lashana sorry, and Lashana says just to win the stupid challenge. The Grips make it first, and Chris tells them that as a reward they'll get first crack at the cellar. Harold says to let him do it, he's a natural negotiator, but Duncan says nobody is going to be scared of him. Eva says to shut up, Duncan does it. Duncan goes first, telling them to fill the bag up with cash
Courtney.
just for the teller to turn around and reveal herself to be Izzy. Duncan asks what she's doing here, and Izzy says she was invited. Chris says that Izzy won a challenge during the episode 12 aftermath, and as a result gets to come back into the game. Duncan says that's not fair, she's already—
Wait, did we actually see it? Let me just double check. No, it's skipped from episode 11 to 13. Oh! I wonder why we're not doing the aftermath. How did I have not noticed that before? Then again, I'm also blocking the numbers, so you can't even check what episode it is either. Haha! So we're both have no information.
already through half of the season. Chris says to bring it up with Kaiba, not him. Chris says that since Grips got here first, they win first prize, the money, while the Gaffers get the second prize, Izzy. The Gaffers enter, and Heather asks who invited the Psycho back, and Chris would say the Psycho was actually on her team, just for Heather to say she'd rather have Gwen before Izzy. Trent says that's why she was never team leader. Welcome to the team, Izzy. Izzy says she's glad to be here. She admittedly told everyone that even if she won, she wouldn't accept it, but when she actually won, she abandoned that immediately and joined. Justin says,
Okay.
I knows that strategy all too well. Chris then tells the two teams that their getaway cars are waiting, now go. Both teams dream of what the getaway vehicles will be, but they see a pile of junk and Chris pulls up saying that they need to build it, telling them that it wouldn't be a challenge otherwise. Lashana asks if they really left her in here because of one mistake. Fine, she's sorry that she lied, now how about a little forgiveness? Harold says that these aren't even getaway cars, these are go-karts. Duncan says to stop complaining and build them. Izzy asks if Justin ever helps, and Heather says he used to. Both teams build their go-karts, but as the two teams drive, the Grips go-kart falls apart right at the end, one of the screws falling out and causing a chain reaction. The Gaffers pass the finish line and win the challenge, Chris telling the Grips that they'll be going to elimination. Duncan asks why Harold's side of the go-kart fell apart, and Harold says that it's not his part of the go-kart, it was Duncan's. The two begin to argue as Tyler in confessional says it was his part of the go-kart. Oh man, if anyone finds out about this, he's done for. The Gaffers dump out all their money only to find out that the money isn't legal tender, but Chris bucks, only usable to buy tap water. Before elimination, Duncan tells Tyler that he's always respected how hard he works. Tyler would say, thank you? Not knowing what sparked this, Duncan would say, yeah, just thought I should tell you since I don't think I've told you before. You're so much better than someone like Harold. You don't mess up like him. Tyler tries to argue, but Duncan says, what, you have something to say? Tyler says, nope, nothing at all. Duncan says that's good, because if he finds out it was someone besides Harold that messed up that go-kart, he's gonna make sure they're eliminated. But he's sure Tyler is too capable for that. Duncan in confessional would say Tyler is such a loser, but he needs his vote. He isn't sure who messed up the go-kart, but he knows it probably wasn't Harold. For as big of a dork as he is, he doesn't mess things up like this. The Gilded Chris ceremony starts, and Lashana says to not tell her that's the Gilded Chris theme. This isn't funny anymore. Chris says that like always, each of you will vote and one of you won't be getting a Gilded Chris award.
Oh, I hate this episode just for Courtney.
Go to Eva, Yugi, Beth, Tyler, and finally Duncan. Harold is shocked but stands up ready to go. Yugi tells Harold at the limousine that for the record he didn't vote for him. Harold would say he knows that already, he doesn't hold it against him. And for the record, that spot of the go-kart wasn't his. Yugi promises he will eliminate whoever messed that part up, and Harold says he hopes it's Beth personally, making Yugi wonder why he had to end things off like that. Izzy pulls out her PDA and reviews the footage of Lashana trash-talking everyone on the spa trip, and in confessional says that she isn't coming back solely to compete. That was the original goal, but Kaiba needed someone to deliver a little information about Lashana. I leak out the information at the right time, I get paid. Episode 14 begins with Yugi asking Eva in a roundabout way if it was her fault, and Eva says no, it wasn't. She only carried the part. She didn't actually build it. And frankly, she's a little insulted Yugi would think she's capable of messing it up. Yugi says that he doesn't think it was her. He just doesn't know who it could be. Eva tells him that he should probably start with Tyler or Beth. Duncan asks if he can just help Tyler a little bit, and Beth says no, Tyler needs to learn on his own. Duncan says it's not his fault that Tyler picked the worst deck of all time. Tyler says to shut up, he just needs to listen to the heart of the cards. Duncan shoves him over, listen to them down there, it's his turn. Tyler says that's not fair, I was just about to play a card. Duncan asks if this is a I'm gonna play a card in 5 minutes or 10 minutes type of claim, and Tyler says 5. Beth says to not actually answer that. Izzy asks Heather how it's like to not be able to lie, and Heather says that it's not fun. Imagine what it's like to have to tell your own mom that her dress makes her look fat. I was gonna tell her it anyway, but I liked having the choice. Lashana says that maybe Yugi should have taken her ability to tell the truth instead. Justin beats Trent, and Trent says he really didn't expect that. Justin has gotten really good. Justin tells Trent he lacks finishing power, and Trent asks what he means. Justin says that his deck has good synergy, but it builds to nothing, like a roller coaster with no drop. What are you building towards? What kind of beauty are you wanting your opponent to see? Trent says the beauty of music, I guess, not really understanding what's going on. Justin says he can work with that, his eye glowing and Trent's deck having been altered. Trent asks what just happened, and Justin tells him
Kaiba never was able to do that. Or not Kaiba, Pegasus. He's taking some creative liberties. Was this in the manga? Was that part in the manga at all? Because I don't feel like that's a creative liberty if I've ever seen one. As I don't remember Pegasus ever being able to alter someone's decks, just read minds. Not sure how I feel about that.
He's turned his deck into an Orcus deck. Trent looks through it and realizes that this is the deck he's been waiting for. Chris blows on a horn and Chris announces the next challenge. They will be going back to the Paleolithic era or the Stone Age. The first challenge will involve both teams making fire with only rocks. Duncan pulls out a lighter and uses it to cheat, and Yugi wonders if Duncan sabotaged Harold's side if he's willing to cheat. Heather says that these rocks are defective, and Izzy easily lights the fire when she grabs the rocks. Chris announces that the second and final part of the challenge will involve two members from opposite teams on wooden columns trying to knock each other off with bones. Chris then announces that since Duncan cheated last challenge, the gaffers actually win and they get the larger bones to fight with. The first round is Yugi versus Justin. Yami activates, telling Justin not to try it, and Justin tries to swing his club, Yami just ducking under it as Justin loses his balance and falls off the wooden column into the tar. Yami says that was easy enough. Round 2 is Eva versus Lashana, with Eva yanking the bone away from Lashana and hitting her off the column into the tar. Heather laughs along with Justin and Izzy, where Heather says all that she's missing are some feathers. Lashana says she's gonna take a shower. Chris says that the Grips only need one more win to win the challenge. Round 3 is Tyler versus Trent. Tyler throws his tiny bone at Trent and it just bounces off of Trent as Trent shoves the bone into Tyler's abdomen, pushing him off the column. Tyler apologizes and Duncan says it's okay, he gave him a chance to win it. Round 4 is Duncan versus Izzy. Duncan cracks his knuckles and Izzy throws her bone off the column. Duncan asks what she's doing and Izzy just says it's not fair if they're not on the same level. Duncan reminds her that he still has his bone and Izzy says oh yeah. She then kicks his arm, making him drop the bone before Izzy punches him off the column. Tyler says that was so much better than his performance, and Duncan asks if he likes having a full set of teeth. Yugi tells him to be quiet, Beth still hasn't gone yet. Beth says oh right, it's all up to me. Round 5 is Beth versus Heather. Heather says this will be too easy. As the two get on their columns, Beth throws her bone at Heather, and Heather asks if she has any other ideas. Beth saying only one. She suddenly jumps, intending to knock them both off, but Beth only manages to grab her bone. Heather saying that she really is a letdown. Beth telling her to wait before she lets go of the bone and drops Beth into the tar. Izzy says, oh, I get it, let down. Chris announces that the gaffers win. Grips, you 5 losers at elimination. Duncan walks into the trailer asking why Yugi wants to see him. Yugi says that he should know already, and Duncan is confused, asking if it's about his failure in the challenge because there's 2 other members who did as well. Yugi says no, it's about Harold. You sabotaged it. Duncan says, dude, I didn't. Yugi asks why he's lying to him. It works out too well for Duncan. Duncan hated Harold. Of course he'd sabotage it. Duncan says, dude, I know me and him didn't get along, but please don't do what you're about to do, because if you do, you'll be getting rid of someone who didn't do anything. Yugi asks who did it then, and Duncan, without thinking, says Beth. Yugi locks eyes with him, looking for an explanation as to how he knows, and Duncan says that he saw Beth working on Harold's side. He didn't think much of it at the time, but she must have been in charge of it, or sabotaged that spot if it was Harold's. Yugi tells him thanks and Duncan leaves, his heart still beating in fear as he felt as if Yami was right there. Chris welcomes everyone to the Gilded Chris ceremony, same procedure as always.
Actually
if you get a Gilded Chris award, you're safe. Gilded Chris awards go to Eva and Yugi. Tyler, you're safe another day. And finally, the 2 biggest losers of the night. Duncan, you mocked Tyler and then lost even worse than he did. Beth, you were the team's last hope and you lost in the end. Beth says that at least she put up a better effort, right? Chris says, unfortunately for you, Beth, the team didn't see it that way. Here you go, Duncan. Duncan says, oh yeah, and Beth hangs her head, but Yugi tells her she did great. Eva says, yeah, I'm sorry I was such a jerk to you before, and Duncan says that she was just trying to play the game. He gets that now. Tyler asks if they were supposed to be hating her as she leaves happy and hoping for a fresh start next season. Izzy is talking to Kaiba on her PDA, and Kaiba tells Izzy to drop it in the next challenge. It's time. Episode 15 begins with Chris waking them up early in the morning. Chris tells them that they're going to be eating pasta for breakfast so they can carbo load for today's sports-themed challenge. Tyler would be thrilled and says to just follow him, he's got this. Yugi says he certainly will, and Duncan says that he's suddenly chipper. Yugi says that he just fulfilled the promise he made to Harold to eliminate who sabotaged that spot. He's back. Tyler in confessional says he just forgot about that. Oh man, if Yugi figures out it was him, he's screwed. Eva asks why he looks so nervous, and Tyler says no reason, go team. Lashana says they need to work together just like that, and Heather says yeah, but that requires trust, and I don't trust you. Trent says to come on, they'll never win like this, and Izzy says that they actually have more members right now. Justin in confessional would say that he's sitting pretty right now. Trent now owes his deck to him, Lashana and Heather are feuding, and Izzy is Izzy. I'm the last one who'd get eliminated on this team. Chris brings them to a football field and puts both teams through training drills. The 2 teams wonder who won, both sides exhausted, but Chris tells them that this wasn't the challenge, this was just to determine the rankings for the real challenges. The real challenge will be 4 sporting events with members of each team facing off based on their placements. Yugi and Heather are last, and Chris explains that the first challenge is slow motion boxing. Yugi understands the assignment, but Heather just punches Yugi. Yugi falling to the ground as Chris names Yugi the winner since he actually moved in slow motion while Heather just punched Yugi. Heather in confessional says that she knows she would lose, but she wasn't going to waste the opportunity to pay him back for cursing her last season. Izzy drops the PDA and Duncan picks it up, thinking of just stealing it before seeing the videos of Lashana trash talking all of them, and in confessionals says that's not cool at all. The next part of the challenge is Tyler versus Trent in badminton. Tyler tries his best but messes up badly, Lashana making fun of him, which gets Duncan to ask why she's talking like she isn't hiding a massive secret. Lashana asks what he means and Duncan shows the PDA, and Lashana quickly becomes afraid and tells him that there's nothing on there, they'll be bored. Everyone glares at Lashana and Lashana knows she messed up, all besides Heather, who just doesn't care what Lashana thinks. The next challenge match is Duncan against Justin in wrestling.
Wait, who won the challenge though? Did Trent win the challenge? I think Trent wins, so right now it's a 0 for the grips, while 2 for the gaffers.
Justin says he'd love to participate in this barbaric display, but he subs in Izzy instead. Chris says he'll allow it since one of them would have to sit out anyway. Izzy demolishes Duncan using her longer limbs to grapple Duncan.
Oh, the diaper
and put him in a
scene.
headlock, earning the gaffers their second point.
No.
The final point is Eva versus Lashana in a slam dunking contest. Lashana does a flashy dunk and tells Eva to beat that, and Eva dunks with so much force the backboard explodes, and Chris awards the win to Eva. Lashana would want to say something, but Eva would tell her that she said enough for one day. Chris would announce that since the 2 teams are tied, the final round will be a cheerleading competition. The team that makes the best cheer will win. The gaffers argue about what to do until Lashana improvises a cheer about the other castmates as a way of apologizing. The apology seems to be receptive, but the Grips then show off their cheer, a cheer based around Chris, and Chris gives the win to the Grips. Gaffers will be going to the elimination ceremony. At the Gilded Chris ceremony, Chris tells them the reasons they can be eliminated. Heather, you lost to Yugi in boxing. Heather says, actually, I won. Chris says, whatever helps you sleep at night. Lashana, you trash-talked the entire team behind their backs after they gave you a reward. Not cool, dude. And finally, Justin. Justin asks what he did, and Chris says he gave up his spot to Izzy. Although it worked out, that outsourcing may ruffle a few feathers. Trent, Izzy, congrats on your points and your Gilded Chris awards. Justin, you lived to outsource another day. And finally, Lashana. Lashana cheers, but Chris continues. Although you tried to make amends, they still decided to eliminate you.
Yeah.
Heather, here's your Gilded Chris award. Lashana asks who they voted for, and Trent says he couldn't vote for Heather, and Lashana walks to the limousine, as Heather says that she respects her and doesn't hold it against her. Lashana says she still hates her as she enters, and Heather says, sure, keep denying you're like me. Lashana says she'll never be like her as she's taken away. As the Grips cheer for their victory, Tyler wonders how he can live with himself knowing Beth was eliminated because of him. He felt terrible for not telling the truth. He should have just told Yugi it at the beginning, but he doesn't know what to do now. And that's the end of Can Yugi Muto Win Total Drama Action Pre-Merge. What did you think? Leave your thoughts in the
I thought it was pretty good. I'm excited to see what the merge is all about. Hopefully it's not as long as this video, because holy crap, over an hour long? Holy crap. Part 1 and 2 of the original one was barely an hour long. Holy crap. But still, I did enjoy this. It was definitely a fun episode, not gonna lie. I'm excited to see what this next one's all about, so until then, I'll see you whatever I post next, I guess. Bye!